Yeah. Young poet. Transformation. Yeah. Transformation of a nation with a pop run. Need help, call God, he the problem. Call him up. Dr.Travitt will teach you to walk in apostolic. Wow. Equip every single one of us with proper knowledge. We bossin', of course. Finna change a whole nation with the proper knowledge. We bossin', what we do? Finna change the whole world with the proper knowledge.
Oh, welcome to Transformation of a Nation. I am Dr. Travitt.
Pastor Nick.
Here with my husband, Pastor Nick, today, and we are talking about relationships during COVID. Please hit your share button. Let people know that we are on and we are live. Transformation of a Nation. We want to talk to just about every age bracket and speak to them regarding what it's been like for them, every relationship, what it has been like for them during COVID. We often forget the teenagers, and I wanted to get, and the youth, let me not just say teenagers, are the young adults right now that are going through COVID as well, and how it has affected them. And so tonight our show is dedicated to relationships and the experiences that our youth have experienced as well. First, we're going to go to our guests tonight are the Brathwaite young men, and that's Cyan, Chase, and Carrington. Y'all wave, Cyan, Carrington, and Chase. And then we have a mother and daughter. We have Miss Deja and Marika Holbrook. Thank you guys for being here today. And then we have the Burrows family, Jean and Sandrea Burrows, and their son David is in the background. So thank you so much for being. They have a school as well. And then we have Minister Candace Daly. Candace is a teacher, and she was in a biracial relationship and biracial children. So we're going to discuss every aspect of, and please, if you have any questions at all, feel free to type them in at the bottom. I want to start with the young men tonight. So if you would unmute yourself, I want to start with them tonight. How are we going to get this working?
Hi. How you doing?
Hi. Okay, I want to start with the youngest, which is Chase. Chase graduated this year. He's in the top 25 of his class. All of these young men have graduated, went to prestigious, predominantly white colleges, Full Sail, and Chase graduated this year, like I said, in the top 25 of his class with honors. Did not have an opportunity to graduate. And we want to speak to you about how that made you feel and what you went through emotionally, or if anything with that. Can you speak to us?
Yes, ma'am. So, having three older brothers, you get to see a lot happen. You get to see what different paths that your brothers are going to take. So I went to three different graduations. I saw Cyan walk across the stage, saw Carrington walk across the stage, saw Chandler walk across the stage. And that was probably one of the biggest things I looked forward to, that I got to see my brothers do. And, being in high school and being very active, I was a drum major. I was a senior class president. I started an organization. I loved my school. Like, I had a lot of school spirit. Like, North Atlanta was a great experience, and not getting that opportunity to walk because of a pandemic really affected me and my class. Like, not even being able to see my other seniors. Like, we couldn't even say goodbye. We never got to say goodbye to our teachers. We didn't even have final exams, which wasn't a bad thing. But it was very emotional to go through not being able to have that ceremony. And a lot of people tried to make up for it with, like, they had like virtual graduations. Obama hosted a virtual graduation. Our school, we had a virtual graduation, and it was really nice. However, you still feel like you missed something. So it was an interesting experience.
Yeah. You worked so hard, and congratulations in graduating in the top 25 in your class. That's awesome because you were so popular. You see you on everything, so I know that had to affect you because you're very charismatic and outgoing, and I don't know. God's gonna do something. I just believe that some kind of way. And I don't want to say that just to make you feel better, because I don't think anything can bring that back for this opportunity. Nothing we can say can bring this opportunity and this experience back. And when you look back, this is what you'll tell your kids, you know, waiting to walk across the floor. So that has to be difficult. That had to be difficult. Cyan, who in college, and it still is in college. Well, he's home for a while, but he's at Full Sail. Most of his brothers went to Full Sail, which is in Florida. They're very gifted. These are very gifted young men. And you can tell us a little bit about yourself, because I don't want to brag on you. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself and why the Brathwaite name carries weight? So at Full Sail.
So I am attending Full Sail University. I'm going to acquire my bachelor's degree in game art. I do a couple things. I work with Photoshop, Maya, After Effects, stuff like that. So a lot of the Adobe programs. My family is known there. My uncle and my brother went to Full Sail, but my uncle is mainly known for, his Grammys and all the stuff that he's got. And yeah, he's pretty known up there. So yeah.
So your uncle is won Grammys, and he graduated from Full Sail alumni. And so all of you went to Full Sail. Chase, are you going to Full Sail? No?
No, ma'am. I'm enrolled at Morehouse.
That's right. You're at Morehouse. Morehouse. Okay. So tell us what it's been like, because Full Sail is a predominantly Caucasian college. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you didn't choose the HBU.
It's cool. Like, it's cool to see, a different level and a different side of like school. Like, it's a very elite school. You get to play with a lot of things that haven't come out yet. You get to, do a lot of things that are not a lot of people can say that they did. But the downside of my name, and the downside of being there is my name carries a lot of weight. And down there, especially, like, people think, that you're kind of like a celebrity, and, it kind of gets annoying. Like, people want that, but you don't really want that. Like, I don't want that attention. And it's just a lot of that comes with like jealousy. A lot of people are jealous of you just off rip. They want what you have, and it's a lot. Like, people want to be fake friends, and people want to, just, yeah, it's not a genuine friendship, and they want to connect with you just to like link with you or try to get like the connection of your family member or what you have. So it's not, I gotta be extra careful, just because I got people trying to get after me because of what, my family has, or what
What was it that made you want to come back home right now? Because you just got back, and you have school on campus. You actually live there, go to school there, but you wanted to come home. Speak to us about why you wanted, and what was in your heart and mind. What were you feeling? Tell us some of the things that happened and what made you want to come home.
Well, I had a couple of just episodes with people where they were jealous of me because I'm naturally talented at certain things that they, paid $90,000 to go and acquire and get. And, just because that I have a natural talent, they are jealous of me. Like, and I didn't do anything to anybody. Like, I didn't try to brag. I was just doing me. And people don't like the fact that, that you're naturally gifted at something, and they, try so hard at it, and it's difficult. And the reason why I came back home is just because, the state of everything going on with the world, with, the Black Lives Matter movement and everything. And just, everything going on. Just, people getting shot. People didn't really understand where I was coming from when I was, going through some stuff. Like when people were dying, that's draining to see that you got brothers and sisters dying every day to police brutality or whatever the case may be. And you kind of have to just deal with it. And, they don't understand kind of why you're upset or why you're frustrated. They just see another Black person dying. And that's kind of the trend now. Like it's become like people are so numb to it. They don't really know the effect that it has on Black people. So it's not really I don't really even know what to say about it. Like it's just tough. Like you kind of just have to keep going and keep pressing and keep doing what you got to do. And then it just, people don't understand when you try to explain to them. So
people think that you're young, so you're not thinking about that. I want to speak to each one of you before we go. How did George Floyd and so many other things, let's see, being Black males in America, I want to speak to you about that. Tell me everything that you go through, just getting up out of bed and the things that we spoke about that you wanted to be heard and to speak about tonight.
it's just constantly you're looking over your shoulder. Like you are like it's kind of like you can't do the same things that white people do or the same things that other races do, because you especially are a target. Like you are a target from when you're young to whenever you get older. So it's like you just have to walk differently. You have to do things differently, and you have to just be extra careful. Like I don't. I mean, I think my other
You were
brothers
robbed. You were robbed while you were there. So that's post-traumatic stress as well.
yeah.
So
I
can you talk
mean,
to us a little bit about being robbed at your
that
school?
yeah, that was because of the area that I was in, and that was difficult. That was scary for me. But that was from a Black person. So you got to watch. You can't just watch white people. You got to watch Black people as well. So it's like, it's not just I got to watch white people. I got to watch my back from anybody. It can come from anybody. So it's scary, but then again, you just got to keep pushing, like keep
Okay.
going.
And your brother Carrington, you're very gifted. You're very artistic. Make your own tennis shoes and shoes, clothes. Talk to me about you went up to Portland, Nike, right? Is it Nike?
Yes,
Up,
ma'am.
to get a job and etc. You were doing well. Talk to me about Portland and your experience there.
Um, I learned a lot in Portland. I work with a couple companies. Like you said, I work with Nike. I know the Nike president, so I got in the connections that I wanted and the places that I wanted to go, and I still felt like I didn't belong there. Everybody there kept giving me fake, either I'm on your side, Black Lives Matter vibes, or just straight cold vibes that I don't mess with you. Like, why are you talking to me? And it was just like, I felt like I was by myself. I felt like, and out there, they're more product minded. So like here, it's like more creatively, everybody's bouncing off creative ideas. I can say an idea to somebody, they'll give me an idea back, and that'll spark my creativity. But like in Portland, I'll give them a creative idea, and they'll be like, "No, that doesn't work. That is not gonna work for the product." And it's just like you shut it down so quick, and you don't even let the creativity build. As you just knock it from the jump, and you're like, "No, that doesn't work because it's not gonna work on the product." And it's just like my creativity was slowly just like diminishing. I felt because I felt like I was more product. I was trying to focus on the product more than I was creatively, and it just I don't know. It just felt like I was being put in a box. Like, okay, you have to think about the end product. You can't be creative as you want. You have to think about what it's going to be like to the market, to the masses. How they're going to accept it. And you can't really express yourself because I'm explaining my idea to a panel of white, because that's who is in charge is white people. They're on the panel, and I get up there and explain my idea, but they're not going to understand it because my creativity, sometimes they don't understand it, and that's just the bottom line is, and that I feel like that's the problem most of the time is we get caught up trying to explain ourselves and they don't understand us, and you can't really understand unless you're walking it every day. Unless you're black every day, you don't understand me. I can't play loud music at a stop sign because people look to the side, and it's just certain things. And I worked in an environment where people could do things that I couldn't do, and they didn't understand why I couldn't do these things, and it just made me feel out of place. I felt like I didn't belong there. I felt like I was fighting to be normal, fighting to like just live a normal life. I was trying to do too much just to be normal.
Well, I understand. And I don't want people to think that you guys are not, um, um, you're very well versed and you come from diversity. So it's not like you've not been, and your roommates were Caucasians. So it's not like you don't know. So it's not like prejudice. It's your observation as young Black men in America in 2020. So living with your roommates, and sometimes they're not understanding your plight or your dilemma or whatever you're going through. So I'm going to come back to you guys. So that's good. That's good. Let me move to, who do we go to next? Yeah, y'all hit your mute button. Miss Deja, let's talk about family, mother and daughter, because we've been talking about in a relationship where, families had to come back home. You were off. You were doing your thing. You were doing something, and then you had to end up coming back home. You got your ideal job, maybe stewardess, doing radio in Detroit, and then something has to bring you home. Talk to us about that, and then going home, living with mom and mom's own experiences together.
Oh man, it's a humbling experience for sure. But it was necessary in my opinion, because of course, like you said, I had gotten a position working for one of the top airlines. I'm about to travel, I'm about to take pictures, you know what I'm saying? So it was, thinking I'm at the peak of life at that time. And of course, working with, radio stations and everything. So, but I think on a spiritual level, you can kind of get full of yourself a little bit. So I just thank God for that humility that came, coming back home to Georgia, living with mom, it's not a bad thing at all, because it's, I'm knowing that it's a commonality, and that it's a lot of us that are coming back home now because, COVID affected us in so many different ways. But I think it's very necessary, because it built me and my mother's relationship back up, just to be us in the same space. And me even being away, our relationship took a turn, because it's like now we're realizing, it's that, respect level that's coming back up again. It's the, I maybe took some things for granted at one point in time, and coming back here and having that appreciation for a lot of things, and just coming into adulthood as well. It's a different type of relationship that's being developed as well as growing. I'm 24 now. When I went to Detroit, I was 20, 21, 20. And, you're just in a different mental space at the time, thinking you know everything. And you know what I mean? So, and then of course, taking on a position, I think being a flight attendant matured me in ways I couldn't even imagine, because I know it's glitz and glamour. I wear this cute uniform and I'm going here and there, but at the end of the day, I'm the primary source of safety for about 60 to 80 people every day. Like if something goes wrong, I'm that point of contact for everybody to be like, it's going to be okay. So in order to take on that spot, you have to be, here 100% all the time, taking like prayers and things that I've learned at RTY, like right before takeoff. You know what I mean? It puts you in a whole different perspective, just being a human being and being a grown woman. So from that, and then coming home to my mom, I mean, I'm grateful, to be honest. It's different, it's different, but it's so necessary, and I'm grateful for it, to be honest.
And Mom, you were going through your own trials and coming home and talk to us about the job. So many different levels of things that was happening during the pandemic. Well, everybody at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, COVID 2020 just came in truly like a wrecking ball. It came in real nice and quiet initially, and you're making priorities in which you're thinking, these are the things that I need to accomplish, or these are the things that need to happen. And COVID happened, and all those plans went out the window. In reference to I'll just even start with work life. Being promised a position and thinking that things are going to happen, and they didn't. And I was the subject of a surplus. So dealing with being laid off during a pandemic, you would think that would make me almost like fearful. But when you come to a realization that everything is going to be all right, you can either go out of your mind or get truly grounded. So it's like one or the other. It's been we've experienced death during COVID. Even with how, seniors weren't able to graduate and experience graduation. My son was here, and it was like virtual for the last half of senior year. So you're trying to make sure everybody is okay, but still you're trying to be concerned about yourself and get some things together, but you're still trying to make sure home life is being okay and everybody is fine. But if you don't take the time out to kind of put the oxygen on yourself and get grounded, you can fall out, literally. And once days, saying it was about keeping everything together. Again, no one knew that I wasn't, had gotten surplus. I'm trying to make sure everything is rolling. And I had just prayed, because AT&T is one of those places where almost every 3 months is coming up that you may be, getting laid off. So I was dealing with that for quite some time. But when Najee was here and Deja ended up coming back because, she was furloughed, it was like, we're going to make it. Don't worry about it. But then I got
both laid off at the same time.
Yes. And so it's like they're okay. I was like, as long as they're okay, we're good. So like mom to take care of it, we'll be fine. And then when I got that notice, I was up in my room and I had to pray like, Lord, 2020 is no joke. This is not what I signed up for. And I had to have a come to Jesus in my room before I even let them know, to come down and let them know, like, hey, listen, this is the scenario, and everything is gonna be straight. And for them to even say, hey, it's not like we little kids anymore.
We're not.
We're gonna work through this. We're gonna get through this. That alone almost broke me, because it was like, okay, so we gonna team this. We gonna make it through. And I'm saying, like, even with Deja and our relationship, I'm saying, like, it's growth. Going through, saying, like, them high school years, and people believe they know everything. I'm saying, it's a wonderful thing. That little sprout of growth, and they take that and they say, "Ooh, I got wings." And once they literally and they wing it, boy, and you like, wow. And things change, and you have to realize, saying there's one queen in the house, and
one queen.
Yeah,
we're gonna keep it real. But it's like, you start to kind of butt heads a little bit, and I think it was just a respect level once Deja moved out. And it's, I went through it myself. It's not till you gone and you want to go back and rewind the hands of time and be like, can I be a kid again and not worry about no bills? Like,
Please.
it's been times I had to call my own mother and be like, hey, listen, I'm sorry. And
I
she's like, what are you talking about?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Just sorry. And
Seriously.
you know what I'm saying? And I realized even with Deja, and it was a growing process for me. You know what I'm saying? Deja's my first, she was my oldest, and we both grew. And you know what I'm saying? Like, through the divorce and everything, it was just like, I made it. I don't look like what I've been through. This pandemic has truly shown us a lot. It's shown us other people. I think I can say for myself, like, me and Deja are real cool. Like, we can have our times and it's not all, you know, walking through the tulips, but we can have some times where it's like, all right, I'm not feeling it.
It's the communication too that's gotten like a whole bunch better, because
So much better.
at first it was like we'll go to our neutral corners and you know what I mean, and it's treatment, and that doesn't always solve everything. Just trying to dust under the rug or give attitudes, and that doesn't work.
Can't do it. You gotta address it.
You have to.
Good. That's good. I'm gonna come back to you guys, and now I'm coming over to Candace Daly. Miss Candace, tell us about yourself and tell us about what you've experienced. And we were talking, and I said that was so good, even with your kids. We think one way about Black Lives Matter and all of that, but we're not even talking about that. Just what your children and yourself went through being biracial. If you would speak to us, just on a whole, as a whole.
Well, with my kids being biracial, to be honest, they have an experience that a lot of times I feel like I can't help them. Because even though growing up, because I was maybe a good student, or people would say sometimes, you act white. That's hurtful. But I didn't really have huge identity problems, because at the end of the day, I know I'm Black. You're like, you can tell me I'm Black. And my experience was, in a lot of ways, typical Black. You know, church, family, home. But when my kids started to express that they felt sometimes like they don't belong anywhere, I honestly couldn't relate. And selfishly, sometimes for me, my communication to them was, you Black. When people see you, they see a Black person. But their peer-to-peer interaction was different than what I had. And sometimes, because of the spaces they were in, private school or being homeschooled, they felt like a double weirdness, because a lot of times in those spaces, they were around wealthy people. Even the Black kids were wealthy. So I'm Black, but some people make me feel like I'm not Black enough. But in terms of my experience, even the wealthy Black people are living a life that I don't live. So a lot of times I was frustrated, because I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. I think you and I were talking about even the light skin. The light skin thing, okay? And I mean, we all got people in our family that tell us stuff, you know, that also just won't date dark skin because your mama is chocolate. You know, but I think sometimes maybe darker skinned Black people would feel like that because they were light skinned, they had a privilege that they really didn't have.
Okay, so that's a good point. That's a good point, because people often talk about white privilege. And so then they somewhere in between there, they think about light skin privilege. And is there, from your perspective, raising light skinned children, is there a privilege?
I think so. And I think it plays out differently depending on who you're around. I think maybe sometimes white people initially might feel less threatened, but that can be a false sense of security, because at some point, the fact that you're Black is still going to be an issue. But wait a minute, you know, I wasn't a spread. But especially in this climate, racially in our country, I believe some of those kind of privileges, if they didn't disappear, they certainly got weak where white people are concerned. I think where Black people are concerned, I think the whole media, everything helps us to keep up that us-them fight. So if you look Puerto Rican, you know, people might take to you. But on the other hand, because you do look a certain way, some people automatically don't like you. Talking about Black people.
That's true.
So you look at you automatically and think, you think you're better, or you have privileges, or you get away with things because you like me.
What are some of the things that your kids talk to you or feel that they feel during this pandemic, like during this time? Because just being in the mix of not having a place. I'm talking to the Black boys, and they say, you know, we're dark skinned guys. Let's talk about that. And on this forum, we can talk about that, because, you know, people may not understand, but we all on this forum understand light skin, dark skin. We all understand that. People that are not maybe of our ethnicity, they may, oh, that doesn't matter. It does matter. It always has mattered. It was taught. So, you know, right now we have a high suicide and mental rate because it has been escalated, and it matters. And so it matters if they're feeling, you know, I don't belong. And it matters if the boys are feeling like, I certainly don't belong because of my skin. But, you know, that maybe, can my kids pass for this? How are they coping with this?
I don't know if this situation has made them feel any worse. To be honest, for my kids, I really feel like this situation with the whole racial climate has, if there was ever any question about where you possibly stand, that question is answered.
Okay.
You don't get a pass because your daddy's white. And I think maybe some anger even, because you're looking at this situation in black and white. So I've heard a lot of like anger about history, about why are things still the way they are. And it's almost in some ways like a third race being created. Because you have these kids who really differ from their parents' point of view in terms of how things should be fixed, how things should be handled. And this was a little off the subject, but with this generation, God is not even always in the mix. So with us, when we faced our racial stuff, there was always a God factor linked on that. But when I look at these kids, they don't have it. And so they're leaning on culture. It's interesting, the grandparents were talking about the artistic. I see a lot of unity in the artistic community. That in some ways the color line there almost doesn't exist in some ways. And they protest in their way. But I feel like in some ways for my kids, and if they hear me, they probably will be mad at me. But in some ways, I feel like all of this situation, it even makes them feel less like you belong in some ways.
Okay.
Because if they protest, I've heard them say that some black people have said, you don't have an experience, so you have nothing to protest.
And they actually went out and protested with their Caucasian dad. They were out there. They took pictures. So they were in the mix. And so what did they feel? What was that experience like for them, being out there and just seeing everything that they saw?
I think the experience was a good one. Thankfully, they weren't in a violent, it just turned crazy when they were out there. I think it's the conversation that I hear is frustrating because you see the acting, you see the protesting, but then on the ground, they realize that people are pretty much still doing what they've always done.
That's good. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go to the Burrows family. Okay.
He's got to go to a class, so you might want to go first.
You got to go to class. Okay, so I wanted to talk with you guys about you teach school. You have two sons, one in college. This is David's second year?
Yes, ma'am.
Second year, David, in college. What has been your experience and as two parents, because you guys have been married, what, 25 years? Okay, so 25 years. And so both of your sons have had both parents in the house.
Yeah.
Let's talk, I'll let if you want, David, if you want to speak to this, please speak to your experience, any frustrations, anxieties that you have, and concerns that you've experienced. As you know, the Cyan, Chase, and Karen, you know them. So talk about some of your own experiences, frustrations, or anxieties, or even some of your concerns and fears. I know we don't like to use that word fears, but those are really, it's real.
Yes, ma'am. Well, me personally, just embarking on a new path in life, after graduating high school and everything. Even though I graduated last year, it's kind of like, okay, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? So that's kind of how the concept, or that's how my mindset has been. And with that, plus, I'm ending my freshman year of college, and COVID started coming in, and I was already dealing with, overthinking and overprocessing and anxiety. And so it kind of added on to it. It's a little tough sometimes, just dealing with that part of your mind, because I'm the type of person where I'm constantly thinking about stuff. So on the outside, I'm cool and I'm calm, but on the inside, it's like everything it's like my mind is going 50 million miles an hour. So it's definitely a odd experience, even with, being Black, me personally, when I'm driving and I see a cop, I get nervous. And I grew up, on the white side of town, so I'm not no hood boy, I'm cool. I don't do all of that, but I still get nervous just for being Black. And, it's tough sometimes, but yeah, that's kind of my experience.
Okay.
You're on mute.
You're on mute, Mom.
I'm enjoying talking to you guys because we don't think that you got, I think sometimes we just think you guys are just off and doing college, and you're not even thinking or paying attention. But, post-traumatic stress is real, because when we were coming up, we heard of murders, we heard of lynchings. You have cell phones, you see this. So it's very different in your experiences. So a lot of you are dealing with, stress, post-traumatic stress, after looking at it, even though you think you're not dealing with anything. And we have to consider that you guys are really dealing with something. Yeah. And we're dealing with it the best we can. So how much greater, do we need to be present for you guys, and be that listening ear and pay attention to what you're saying, and how you feel. And it's sad that you have to feel as though you're looking over your shoulders. Well, we were playing jacks and jump rope, and the things that we took for granted. Just going to college your first year, and graduating, and the things we took for granted, it can be very depressing. So I'm so sorry about that. I feel, my heart feels for that. And you got me asking every question. He's just sitting another question. Okay, the Barrows, you guys are here, and you also teach, and you teach young males in your school. So talk to us regarding that, your experiences raising two males, and also what you're experiencing teaching, because you're teachers. That's what you do, and you have a mentorship program for males. So please speak to that.
You want to speak first? You want me to speak? Okay. I get this is gonna be free tonight, Dr. Travitt. I get to call you Dr. Travitt tonight. I think that with two young men in the house, it's scary sometimes. I have my boys and I tell them, really, I don't want you out after dark or be home at a certain time. My kids, they like certain things. I'm like, well, certain things I don't think that, you need to purchase, or don't ride in your car. David like it because, you know, David raps. So I'm like, David, you can't ride in the car with your hoodie on. You cannot, you know, because, you know, it is what it is. These are the times that we're living in. So when my boys go out, I'm praying. I'm praying when they leave. I'm praying when they come back. And now, you know, 95% of the time now they're at home. So this is a totally different ball game. You got the boys, the mama, everybody at the house at the same time. And you're dealing with a whole lot of things because you can feel the tension because Isaac is driving now, you know, he's teaching lessons and he's at high school. At college. And so when you're dealing with all these dynamics as a parent, and then you have to get on and teach and deal with other people's kids, and you see some of the same things. The kids, especially young Black men, nothing against the young Black women, but especially young Black men, they take on so much, but they don't express what they're going through. It's almost like we have to get them to the side and just allow them to express themselves. Because it's almost like young Black men in this season are ticking time bombs. Yeah. It's that they're dealing with the inner things that they're dealing with. And so many families, I think, this Gene speaking, that they don't allow their kids to express themselves. So they take them, and I'm talking this from the school side, they take them and they put them on the games. And they allow the games and the system of the game to raise them. They're not teaching them that, you know, you shooting that game and that person on that game gonna die and get up. If you put a real gun in your hand, or you even play with a gun in your yard and someone drives up and shoots you, you're not coming back. Or you kill someone, they're not coming back. I think that we had a place with young men that we got to do something different. We have to do something different as Black men, or men in general, to reach them. I think that with the COVID has brought a different dynamic to everything. And I'm seeing so many boys, you know, in the school, and I'm listening to them, and we're teaching them. They're crafty. They got their own things because there's no one to hold them accountable for a lot of things that they're going through. So they act out. No one understands Black boys like a Black man. But the Black man has to be present. And the Black man got to understand is this. One thing that I'm going to say this. I'm going to let Sandria talk. One thing that I had was this. I had people in my life that would help me raise my boys. And I didn't say anything. You know what I'm saying? So I think that we got to get back to the place where we allow people to mentor or talk to our boys in order for us to help save a race. I think what the Bradford boys said is so profound. There's a lot of things going on that we don't know as parents. There's a lot of things going on that we don't talk about. But every day, we talk to David and Isaac every day. And I think a parent, if you're at home, talk to your boys, talk to your girls every day. You got to set aside time to know what's going on in your home. We don't have all the answers. We turn to you and Dr. Travitt. You know what I'm saying? So we have to get to the place as parents to say that we don't know everything. We need help, especially right now in COVID. In COVID, we need so much help in raising our kids. Because some people want to strangle their kids. I know. Because some of these kids are off the chain. But they are you. Until you fix you, we can't help your kids. You got to work on yourself where you say, well, we need you to help us with our kids. No. Let us work with you first. Then we work with your kids. That's what I'm finding out with dealing with boys. And because that's mostly what I deal with. I know we have a mentorship, and I think I'm going to talk to Dr. Travitt about we might have to do a Zoom like this and have the boys on and just talk to them. You know, because there's a place and there's a place where they are going that is not good inwardly because they're not dealing with their emotions. They're not dealing with their emotions. They're not dealing with it. Go ahead.
That's true, and I think that's one of the biggest. That's one of the things that I'm seeing in the program that we have with the Biracial Foundation, because we do accept all kids, but our main focus is at-risk kids. And when we say at-risk, we mean kids that are dealing with just behavioral and social issues that have affected their grades.
Yes.
And I think that parents, they focus so much on, oh, my daughter makes straight A's. Oh, my daughter made the beta club. Oh, my daughter is this. My child is that. My child goes to the top-notch private, this top-notch private school, and they're making all these grades. But they're not focusing on the mental health.
Yep.
And you have a straight A student. I have a neighbor that's telling me her daughter is cutting herself every day. You got straight A kids cutting themselves. You got straight A kids climbing out the house, climbing out the window at night, sneaking out. And we're so focused on being competitive in the marketplace, trying to compete with the Joneses, till we're not really thinking about the mental health of our children. And you're trying to figure out why they go out and do drugs. Why would my kid go out and shoot somebody? There are straight A kids in jail. They're institutionalized. And we're so focused on competing with society. And that is one of the things that I think that as a nation, that's where we fail society. Because our focus is on the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And until we deal with the mental and emotional health, I mean, just to even get to a counselor or psychologist, you're talking about 2 to 3 months out because so many people dealing with mental health issues. But you got to deal with these mental health issues when they're little. And with COVID, all COVID did was expand a problem that was already there. This is affecting kids so badly, so they don't even know how to deal with themselves being in the house all day.
Yes.
So they want to get out. They want to socialize. They want to do all these things rather than deal with themselves. And so, all COVID did was just expound a problem that was already there. That's all it did.
I agree. It did. It exposed a problem that was always there.
Mm-hmm.
I ask you, Breathway boys, BBs, if I can ask you, how has your emotional and mental capacity honestly been in the midst of this?
Jesus. I know for me, we went into quarantine early March. That was the middle of my second semester of senior year. So it was confusing to navigate at first. We just didn't know what was happening. And then we got news that we weren't going to have a graduation. So that set in. You get kind of really down on yourself because it's like these 4 years that you've been leading up to, you don't get any reward for. And then on the day that I was supposed to have graduation, May either 23rd or 25th, that was I remember hearing news that same week about George Floyd dying. It was the crazy part was I saw it while I was scrolling on Instagram. It's a video of this white man's knee on a black man's neck, and I hear this man passed away. So just absorbing that, you kind of just get numb because at a certain point it becomes normal. We're seeing Tamar Rice, Breonna Taylor. I can't even remember everyone's names because there's so many people that just die at the hands of police brutality, and it's supposed to be something that's common. And then just navigating your emotions during a pandemic, and it's so much, and so it's a lot.
Yeah, and you have to build up a wall. I did that while I was in Portland. I had to. It was like if I didn't build up a wall, I would blow up on every white person that said a smart remark to me. It was not. You have to build up a wall to where their arrows don't affect you, and you just keep pushing. Like, because if you don't keep pushing, you're gonna get in trouble. It's not their remark; it's gonna be your reaction that gets you in trouble or killed.
Yeah.
It's that quick, and it's like they say something, you react, you get in trouble. It's not no, what did he say to affect you? It's not. There's gonna be no questions asked.
Yeah, and I agree with what they're saying. What I did, honestly, COVID honestly helped. Like, as much, like, you know, if you look at it in a different perspective, it kind of forced you to kind of separate yourself because you can't fit in. Like, you have to be different. You have to do your own thing. So, like, all the stuff that was going on, it did affect you, like, mentally. Like, it was a lot, but it forced you to think differently. It forced you to think outside of the box because you can't think normally in these times, because you can't. If you try to operate normally, you're not going to get the same result. Like, it just forced you to do something different. So I honestly, it sucks with everything going on, and you've seen everybody getting shot, you've seen everybody dying, and people can't relate to you, but it forces you to do something different and forces you to grind even harder, because it's like, I got to work 10 times harder than the next Joe who is doing the same thing as me. So, yeah.
I wanted to ask y'all a question. And either one of the fellas, you guys can answer this question, and then Deja, I would like to hear what your response is. Also, I kind of been, I don't want to say informed, but it's apparent and obvious that there's a communication gap between, your generation and the previous one. I mean, so what is it that we're missing? What is it that we need to do to kind of further help and assist and push? What is it that we're missing? Why is that gap, so I don't know.
Well, honestly, I feel like people don't have an outlet. Like, kids don't have a way to express themselves. Like, for Black men, the only place for them to express themselves is like on the basketball court or like video games. Like, they don't have an outlet. And I feel like if they really had a creative outlet to really express what they were saying, like what Minister Jean was saying, like if they had what we had, like we are all fortunate because we had you guys to talk to, and we had you guys to go to. Like, if I had a problem with my mom or my dad, like, and going through the divorce and everything, I could go talk to you, Pastor Nick, and you would give me a different outlook instead of hearing what I got to hear from my friends or hearing what I have to hear from, my mom. Like, it was just the outlet. It was something that, was neutral, but then again, it was helpful. So I feel like if kids have, an outlet or somebody to go to that is not social media, not video games, not, all this other stuff that is polluting their mind, they would do a lot better.
And I think the gap is I think the older generation is so set in their ways. It's like, well, this is what worked for me. Well, this is not going to work for me right now. I can't do the same thing you did and get away with it. It doesn't work. It doesn't work the same way. Yeah. And it's like teaching an old person how to use technology. It's just the hardest thing to explain. What is going on? Like, it's just like, I don't get it. You have to literally walk them through. This is how the world is right now, and this is how it's affecting me. But I don't know. It's just that gap, and people are so set in their ways. It's hard to explain. Yeah, what's going on right now. It's not the same.
I love that analogy, though. I love that analogy because it made it so understandable. Because you said teaching older people who haven't dealt with technology and kept up with that, trying to teach them and then bringing them forward, and then they're trying to bring you back to something that you never knew.
Yeah.
And you're trying to pull them into something. It's the hardest. It's almost like a language barrier. Tug of war. So I do understand that, and it is I feel like it is a blessing to have a mentor at this young age. We need mentors males and females, whatever that looks like. Okay, I'm good.
So from your perspective, Deja?
It's real different, especially being a young Black woman in this society now. I mean, with just from the music industry, how we display ourselves, how we're supposed to conduct ourselves, it's completely different. You know, exposing yourself now in a physical sense is not like the way to go. So like when it comes to communication, that gap is funny because like I always say, like, you gotta start from the foundation. And I always give advice to like new adults who come to me and say, like, how do I communicate with my kids? I say, just sit back and observe. Like, what is it that you see that your kids have a knack for, or you see your kid dancing a lot, or you see that they're into music a lot, or you see that they paint a lot. Like, pursue them in that manner, pursue them in the route of like what they have a passion for. So that way, like now we have common ground. Like, I'm not going to stoop down to your level because you're still a parent, but I want to come to like a commonality where like, okay, well, let's come together and now let's have a conversation. How is school? What's going on with your friends? Or, you know what I mean? It's just taking that time to actually know who your kid is. A young woman, it's so hard because like social media, and it's hard because I know even with myself, like I suffer with, you know, what they say, comparison is the thief of joy. You compare yourself a lot, so then you're trying to adjust to everyone that's around you. So it's even harder for your parents to look at you and say, well, who is my kid? Like, how do I communicate? How do I talk to my child? Because you're trying to be like Susie down the street and you're Deja, or you know, whatever the case may be. So I would just say bridging the gap is, as a parent, just really sit back and observe your child. And as a child, don't muzzle yourself. Like, don't be afraid to talk to your parents at all. Because I know, again, I can only speak from my experience. I was always trying to go to my friends and ask for advice. But how am I going to tell if I'm seeking counsel from somebody at the same level as me? It wouldn't make any sense. So, as you know, going into adulthood, it's knowing that, like, stop being afraid, stop muzzling yourself, and stop like pushing your own resources away from yourself. If I've got somebody who's been through it, who's, you know, basically got the cheat sheet, like, why would I prevent myself from seeking that knowledge? And it's hard because of, again, just like teaching technology to somebody who's older. It is hard, but I think in the end it's worth it.
That's good. Minister Candace, you made a good point, and I want to bring it back around to you. You said you feel like sometimes you can't help them because you can't relate to that. Do you ever feel guilty or blame yourself for your kids, you know, where they are? Which is normal. I think all of us blame ourselves or something.
On a lot of things, just listening to this conversation, I remember just that day. And 9/11 happened, this was 1 month old. And I remember sitting in front of TV, holding this baby crying. And my thought was, what kind of world did I bring a child to? It is a very helpless. And so I think this conversation just reminds me that parenting, you feel that over and over again. You know what I mean? Like, what did I do? And especially now that my two oldest are basically grown. I mean, Nicholas is grown. And then, you know, his sister's right behind him. So the guilt now is, what did I not prepare them for? And some of it is just repent because I didn't prepare them. And some of it is the world is changing. And I couldn't have, I just, how did you know that your kids are going to be faced experiencing the same kind of stuff your parents faced in terms of race. I mean, you just never saw that coming. You didn't see it coming like that. Where I'm relieved that my son doesn't have a driver's license. Because, you know what? What do you do? So there's a lot of fighting regret.
Fighting regret. Oh, wow.
You got to fight the regret because you can't do nothing about it. You know, you just use the term moving forward. With technology, you try to move forward. What am I going to do about what they don't know that they should have known yesterday? And like you said, in that same analogy, some of it, I'm trying to help them see from a perspective they can't relate at all.
No.
They can't relate. And so, you know,
it is difficult because I dealt with a lot of and helping to mentor a lot of children. And I think we're just talking about racially and what they go through mentally. But everything that is presented to them sexually, drugs, so many other things that are so easily porn, that's so accessible, that's damaging to the mind. There's so many things that's accessible that wasn't accessible for us. And I think it's so good to have this conversation and this dialogue, and to help parents to have good dialogue. Did you go through that? Did you go through porn stages?
Absolutely. I was a professional porn watcher. But you know, the access to it, you know, was your magazines, your DVDs, the VHS and type of stuff. So today it's a whole lot different. There's so much that you can access and don't have to go through none of the hassle, you know, and that makes things a little different. You know, like my wife was saying, is when you have access to so much so fast, it was different for us. A lot of things we had to go out and get. So you got in trouble, you tried to get in trouble because you had to kind of push your way through to get certain things, versus now, I mean, it's just right there in front of you. You know, you guys have the black market. There's nothing you can't get out the black market, versus back, you know, in my, you know, coming up, it was different. If you wanted to get something, you had to go through the old school way of getting it. You had to go to the trap house and get with the dope boys and get, you know, so you had to go through all of that stuff to get it. But now things are different. And there's nothing you cannot access from the internet. And I believe that's probably why there's such a, in addition to what you guys have said, there's such a gap, is because most parents are competing with
the internet.
And there's really no competition, you know, because the rappers are telling you guys one thing, the singers are telling you guys one thing, you know, then the peers are telling you guys one thing. Then you have that little voice, which is a parent. You know, it's like, is there any competition? So I'm in agreement. It's going to be push and pull, give and take. But the only way to make it happen is we both got to be willing to work at it and make this thing right. Well, yeah, I definitely had an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This has been amazing.
Yeah.
I would love to do this again with you guys, because it's just not enough time
It really isn't.
to talk about so much that's going on in the world, and from the emotional state. I know some people will look at this and they'll be like, oh, you want to talk racism. It's not racism. It's what people feel, and you don't want us to say how we feel. And I want a forum where they can hear you young men and a young woman and a single parent right now raising biracial children, because these are real realities that are happening in this pandemic, and every person needs somebody to listen to and hear. And it certainly does take a village, and everybody doesn't have two parents, you know, in the house to raise their kids, and it's still a lot with two parents in the house to raise kids. So I salute, you know, all of you. I salute you young men for being able to I'm proud of you. You graduated. All of you graduated. You went to top-notch colleges. No babies, nothing like that. Deja, you graduated. You know, your kids, Minister Candace, in high school, smart as a whip. David, Isaac, you know, dual enrollment. You guys did great jobs. But this pandemic is causing all of us to have to come to terms with just little layers and things that we didn't know, because our past were passing so much. You know, the kids were coming home from school and we're coming home from work. They're doing their homework, then they're taking a bath and they're going to bed. So we're passing. And so now we're really getting to know, and I think parents are really getting to know their children and the pains that they're going through. And also, I think it's reversed as well. I do believe that you guys are getting to see some of the struggles and the hurt and pain that your parents was going through in trying to raise you and to get, and why they were so extra. I think they were extra, but I think now you get it, right? You can get that why my parents are extra, because there's always layers behind the scene. And so I thank you guys, and I pray that you continue to transform Deja, Nicholas, Hyla, Hannah, Miss Candace, Burroughs family, everyone. I do. What's you have to say?
I would love to do this again, honestly. I mean, I don't know what your schedules look like. Maybe that's something we can address offline, but this will be great to do a part 2, maybe as soon as next week, and really get a little deeper into it, because I think there's a lot of things that we've yet to kind of scratch the surface on, because the fact of the matter is I mean, this is a real serious time. And that's just being honest. No matter how successful you guys are, and all of you guys are extremely successful that we're talking to, you've done amazingly well. At the end of the day, you know, in that particular event, at that moment, you know, you look the part, regardless of what your education is, your GPA, you look the part, and none of that stuff will be factored in. That won't be considered how great you've done, how well you succeeded in school. None of that stuff factors in. They just see a black male or a black female, and you look the part. We're going to always look the part. So I want to get deeper into this thing, because I think this generation definitely needs to hear it. You guys have a voice. This is your opportunity to set the record straight and let us know where we all stand. So I'm excited and looking forward to another opportunity.
That's why I call me thanks. I know Mama Jose didn't mean that. Thanks, Dr. Gravity and Pastor Nick.
That's because you're going up levels. That's it.
Dr. Gravity.
Going up levels. That's it.
Okay.
We appreciate you guys.
We really do. I mean, it was fun. It was Absolutely. A blast. And I think that many people.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think people will come back and watch this program and get a lot out of it, because we need to hear, and we needed to hear you. And this platform is always open to, especially your youth, you know, if you want to come and be heard, because you're transforming and you are our future. So we have to hear your pain as well. And a lot of times I think the problem is we want to hear your rah-rah, but we don't want to hear your pain. And does it make sense? We want you to just be okay. Rah-rah. They did good, but don't talk about your pain. Right, y'all? Is that an amen over there for the Bradway boys? Y'all like, right? People don't want to hear the pain. They want to know what you're going through, but they want to talk about your successes. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a place and a platform for, you know, all of, if you have friends that may want to come on and just talk. This is not just a Black platform. This is a multiracial, multicultural platform. So we want to hear from every person, every level, every economic and social economic status to talk. And I thank God for you guys. So with that being said, I thank you again for joining Transformation of a Nation tonight, where lives are being definitely transformed. Thank you guys, everybody. Come on, clap, clap, clap. But we give God praise for this tonight. And I want you guys to do this. Keep transforming, keep changing. Don't get stuck here. It's not going to be like this always. We have to tell ourselves, keep mentoring. Burroughs, keep doing what you're doing. It's Candace, raising your children, keep being and having hope and keeping hope. Deja and Marika, keep doing what you're doing. And young men, there's nothing but success for you guys. You went through, you're already successful. So everybody, I just don't see anything but success. And these will be books and testimonies and everything else that will come out of this. So I thank you so much tonight. All right, that's me.
All right, we appreciate you. Next week, if the Lord willing, Transformation of a Nation, Dr.Travitt. All right.
All right. Thank you. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next week right here. All right. Good night.